All the pretty girls stand up. All the pretty boys stand up.
Pretty boys in the building.
Sway. This right here is my sway. Sway. All the girls are on me. Damn. Everybody pay attention. This right here is my pretty boy sway. 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 Girls on my rank. Pretty boy sway. Girl, screw my name. Sway. Pretty boy sway. Pretty boy sway. 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 Girl, on my rank. Pretty boy sway. Girl, screw my name. Pretty boy sway.
Soldier.
Get out the way. Pretty boy coming through.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another stream with Swaggle Haas. We got ourselves another big auction event going on today on this Thursday, lunchtime, my time, Pacific time. I don't know where you guys are. Maybe you guys are having your post-afternoon coffee, watching some books that maybe you're bidding on. Maybe they're books you can't afford. Maybe they're books that you'd just like to window shop with me here today on. But I figured it might be kind of fun to fire up the stream and, talk about some of these big sales and see what, the prices are going out there on this heritage event. Obviously, you guys, we did our catalog preview here on the channel the other week. I kind of flipped through some of the book, and we actually get to see some of those, big books go up for sale today. And I thought it'd just be kind of fun to hang out. We can do a little Q&A, casual stream, just sort of watch it together. Just something for us to, talk around and anytime we get to hang and talk about comic books, it's always a good time. There was actually a heritage event that, or auction session that already closed that had probably the biggest books of the entire auction that went up for sale already. And we can talk about some of those sales in this event here today. Obviously, some of the books are really, really interesting and really cool to talk about. Some of the books are, ones that maybe are not as interesting to talk about, but we'll just kind of let it ride and we'll talk through. And then the auction actually goes for multiple days. So there's some other really big books that, maybe we're not going to stream for, but it'll be interesting to maybe we can preview and talk about and see what they end up going for. Unfortunately, don't get to have my auction partners in crime, Como and Automatic on the stream today. This is what it is. If you have meetings to attend to and things like that, I'm fortunate that I can take this lunchtime with you guys here today. So let me sip some coffee and, do the thing. Let's check in with the chat here and just say hello to everybody in the stream right now. We got GT Key Comic. What's going on, GT? Good to see you, man. Thanks for stopping in. We got Jeff in the house. Did you see the UF4 98 variant go for only $21.6K a couple days ago on Heritage, already at the Barbershop? We'll see how the other two copies do today. Yes, Jeff, I did in fact see that, and it was interesting about that book because they, as you point out in your comment, there were more copies of that book that were going up for sale in this auction today. So at one point, the way that this was scheduled is that you're going to have 3 98 Drujevitz variants in a row, 2 of which were going to be CGC labels, and then the one other is a CBCS label. And you have to think that one of the owners of that book was like, I don't want to sell my book, next to this other one. Put me in the weekly session. And then that one, definitely went to the barbershop, definitely took a little bit of a haircut there. But, we've talked about that book many times here on the channel about how fast it inflated in its prices. So it was sort of bound to happen. 21K, I don't even know if 21K is the floor. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, I think it's a great book. It's a book that will always have value. It's a new modern grail. But maybe got a little bit in front of itself, and so we'll kind of see how it plays out with the ones going up in the rest of the auction. Cameron in the house. Hey, pretty boy swag. What's going on, Cam? Good to see you. Thanks for stopping in. I love that wait music. Yeah, I'm trying to make it a little fun in the pre-show. Try to put together a little intro. Had to find a version of Pretty Boy Swag that I wasn't going to get copyright strike on. Even though I made his music video, I'd be like, dude, Soldier, why are you copywriting striking me? What's up with that? Nowhere Band in the house. What's going on? Nowhere. Good to see you. Thanks for stopping in. Actual Dracula in the house. Good afternoon. Excuse me as I sip coffee. We got Dan in the house. Hello from Copenhagen. Dan, good to see you, man, all the way out there. You know, it's actually nighttime for you. So, you know, this is a proper time to kind of, you know, watch auctions and stuff like that. We got Ghost Rider, Cosmic Finds. What's going on, Ghost Riders? Good to see you. Thanks for stopping in here. Just a few more hellos. What are your predictions on the X-Men 1 CGC 8.5? Well, you know, we'll get into it. We'll talk about it. I haven't done too many pre-pricing. You know, I have kind of a little bit of a number in my head, but I'll pull it up and I'll type fast, and we'll pull up you know, numbers and values as we go, and we'll see you know, if we can kind of make sense of what we think that they're going to go for. Cameron says, was that one of the music videos you directed? Yes, it was one of the music videos I directed. So you know, it's kind of a theme that feels appropriate to the Swaggle channel. You know, I mean, that's kind of where I got swag from overall. Just a few more here. Maurice, what's going on, man? Maurice, good to see you. Thanks for stopping in. We got Box Cat Keys going to be 10K to 15K books soon for the UF4. I don't know. I don't think it'll go. I mean, I don't think it'll go that low. I don't. It's a great book. It has value. And I think sometimes people think that like I'm like a hater or whatever on the book. I'm not. I'm just like, we just have to understand like how it overshot. Things got crazy. And, you know, it can be a book for the future for sure. It's just, you know, we have to see where it ends up kind of settling. You know, the problem is like you have such high turnover rate with the book right now. You know, all these books are kind of repricing, resetting. People are looking to kind of look at their collections and go, okay. Like, well, what do I want here? How do I want to, you know, move my money and stuff? And eventually, as all the people who are the non-holders of that book want to, you know, kind of flush it out of their collection and just be like the let it rip dollar start kind of thing. That's when we'll be able to kind of redetermine what the prices are. Similar to what Michael was bringing up here with the Spawn 306. Will Spawn 306 Netherrealm variant be on the show today? Such a bad beat for those first few buyers at the end of 22, especially at that $5,000 sale. Yeah, it really is unfortunate. And this is one of the things, like, you know, I always say, like, I love comic books. I'm a big bullish believer in comics and stuff, but, you know, I think in these markets, you got to be careful, right? Especially with these censuses, and you got to make like educated purchases. And when new things come out and they're very, very exciting, like I made that video about Wizard Magazine #1 and things like that. And so you have to like just understand these markets and figure out what the true censuses are. I don't think it's going to be a zero book. In fact, one of the recent sales for that book just the other day, because yeah, I was following all them on my eBay account, and a 9.8 sold at auction, 9 bids, and it went for like $1,400. So like the day that all of them hit market, you know, the 9.8s were going for like $800 or $900. And then this prior sale went back up to $1,400. So that's kind of interesting, because this, before those books flooded the market, it was at $1,400. And then, you know, the market got tanked or whatever down to like 800. So you almost sort of wonder, like, did Bill putting all the books on the market, like, obviously cause like a temporary stink, but then actually there still is a demand for that book. And so it'll be interesting to see. I don't think it's ever going to go back to 5,000. I mean, unless, you know, we're talking 10, 20 years from now and modern books continue to appreciate or whatever, but 5,000 is going to be tough for that book. That's for sure. Let's see. It's okay. You don't need to say my name. Well, I just feel like I'm going to mess it up. You know, Mrs. Express, Mr. Express, Miss Express, Miss Horse Express. I mean, if I mess it up, I mean, it's not that I won't mess it up. It's just that, or it's not that like messing it up is going to make it worse than it already sounds. It's just funny. It's just funny to me. Chris O says, will you be at Collector Summit event hosted at Heritage in November? Any advice? Missed last year, but have my ticket for this one. You know, that's funny that you say that, Chris. I've actually never been to the Collector Summit. And I think there's one in Dallas, the one you're talking about. And I did get like a little push notification of like, or maybe it was you know, on my Instagram, like a, you know, advertisement for it. And I was like, oh, maybe I should go to that. You know, why not? You know, so I am actually kind of interested in going with it. And it's a little something I wrote down for myself as a maybe. So I don't have any advice that I can give you as far as like what to expect with it, and how the event usually goes, because I've personally never been this year for the first time. James says, finally, YouTube sent me a going live for swag, glitchy algorithms, I guess. What's up, Swag House? Yeah, thanks, James. Well, I'm glad that YouTube sent it to you. YouTube is, it has to decide. I don't know how the algorithm works. If I knew how the algorithm works, I'd be, the Mr. Beast of comic books. But, I try not to worry too much about that stuff, but I'm glad you were able to get the notification and check in. 57 viewers and only 12 likes on the video. Like the video, smash the subscribe button, and click the bell. Run me through. You took the words right out of my mouth. Right out of my mouth. And I appreciate you. I appreciate you getting people to like the button, or getting people to like and subscribe and all that good stuff. And yeah, hopefully you guys are down for that. Now that we have the hellos out of the way, let me kind of get things set up here. Hold on, having a little bit of a glitch. I'm going to pull up the Heritage Auction again, guys. We're talking Heritage Auction Platinum Session here. I mentioned in my preview video that the Heritage Auctions, they have quarterly, maybe 3 times a year. I'm not actually sure. Maybe you guys know in the comments. They have these big signature auctions where this is where they kind of pull up all of the best inventory that they have for sale and put it in one big auction in the market. So I feel like, I think between, my channel and Como's and Automatic and stuff, we always cover these books and talk about these books. So, we figure it just makes sense to give live coverage to it, because I think it's a lot of fun. I think people are out there talking about it. All right, hold on, guys. I'm having a little bit of trying to pull up this Heritage link. Give me a second here. Give me a second. I had a little crash on my window over here. All right, here we go. Let me quickly pull this up. We have this auction starting pretty soon. All right, let's go into this right here. We are going to pull this up. Oh dear, hold on. Hold on, folks. All right, hot tip. Hot tip. All right, present. Hold on, guys. I had it all set up, and then the computer kind of went down on me here. All right, there we go. So here we are in the Heritage live interface. This is one of those events that actually has live auctioneers. Let's see if we can hear her talk. Yeah, so I'm going to turn off the voice right there. Just so that we can I can kind of talk and basically have this conversation. But we'll leave it on the background. This is where they actually, again, they have the big books. They bring out the auctioneers. It's the live auctioneer. It's the classic, auction format of like, do I hear 10? Do I hear 15? That whole thing. And it's really interesting because it really does make a big difference how much the auctioneer sells the book. It truly does make a difference. And with some of the prior big sales, I want to kind of talk a little bit about that. Depending on how much they want to milk it, because the auctioneer is going to close it. And there's no science to how long they hang on a book, how long they don't hang on a book. I'm sure that they have notes and they know like what the previous sales are and the fair market values. And so it's up to them to make sure that these books at least get within range to those previous sales and stuff. But like sometimes you watch the auctioneer and they're just like, Action Comics 13, guys, we're talking the 4th cover of Superman. And they just like let it hang and they let people, really, really mull it over. And then sometimes they're just like, Action Comics 13, 4th appearance or 4th cover of Superman. All right, going once and all right, sold 24,000. And it's I don't know what it is. Some of these guys get way bigger sales than some of the other ones. We'll see if the ringer is in. Automatic and I, or Automatic, we always talk about this one guy at Heritage who, if I'm a seller and he's selling for me, I'm happy. If I'm a buyer and he's selling, I'm not happy. If I'm a buyer for the book that he's selling. All right. So first book right there, we can talk a little bit about this Action Comics number 13. Can I open this? Yeah. Action Comics 13 here. Oh, Jesus. Oh, Jeebus. 4th cover appearance of Superman, 24,000. A very, very cool book. A lot of these books that we have coming up here, We'll cover the mega grails and stuff. We'll go over the ones that previously just went. But some of these ones are really, really cool. You know, you don't see these ones too often. I've talked about on the channel how I'm a big fan of some of these early Supermans that maybe they're not like the mega keys, but I kind of feel like there's opportunity with some of the Superman stuff. I mean, you know, a 2.5 at $24,000 is, you know, nothing to sneeze at. I'm not saying that this is a mega opportunity, but some of these books are just really, really special. You don't see them too often, and it's cool to see a lot of them here on this auction. Go past us. But the Real Hyperion brings up the first book that I really, really wanted to talk about, which is the Action One selling for $408,000. We're going to let the auction run in the background. If there's any books you guys like want to focus in on or have anything specific to talk about, we can cover them. As you can see right here, all these books that are coming up back again and again and again are Promise Collection books. Now, they're not necessarily like keys, but you can see that they're 9/8 white pages, you know, golden age books and things like that. So it's pretty cool to see it. And the Promise Collection is definitely one of the most desired pedigrees that there are. But, you know, I mean, they're mega key. They're not like the mega keys and stuff. So I don't want to spend too much time with them. We can focus on, I have some of these ones that are more highlighted, like, you know, first Wonder Woman, we can kind of focus in on. We should talk about the Batman ones. Just, I mean, this auction alone has 2 Batman ones. I mean, maybe there's 3 actually, and just how common Batman one has been recently going up for sale. There's a bunch of Captain America ones in this auction, some cool Captain America books that I definitely want to focus in on that we'll definitely talk about. But yeah, what Real Hyperion was saying, Action Comics #1 going up for sale earlier this morning. The 0.5 back cover missing, origin and first appearance of Superman, as well as Lois Lane and Zatara. But there you see it, boys and girls. Action Comics #1. If you wanted your entry-level copy into Action Comics #1, the floor price is now $408,000. $408,000. That is actually a very impressive sale. And that's one of the interesting things, I think, with a lot of these mega key books is, you know, you have like the people who really care at the top, right? They really, really care at the top because the highest grade on the census is obviously going to command like, you know, the biggest flex potential. And then you have the people who just want the book. Like, I just want to get in the club. And so you have the floor price. And then you have a lot of tweener stuff where obviously it all matters, you know, but like if it's a nice presenting 4.5 and it's a nice presenting 6.0, I mean, maybe the grade psychology matters to certain collectors, but at the same time, like, you know, sometimes those window margins aren't as significant. I mean, they always are in these mega grails. But generally speaking, where I'm going with this is that for these mega grails, like the floor prices, just the get in the club price is usually not equal to the point per grade ratio that you see with a lot of these books. So even though that this book right here is a 0.5 with a back cover missing, still requires you to spend $408,000. And I had some of the previous sales pulled up here. And obviously Action One, not a book that goes on sale too often. Actually, let me pull this up really quick. You guys know 44 universal copies, which this is one of the 44, 78 total graded, right? So how many raw books are out there at this point? I don't know. I mean, if you have an Action Comics 1, are you not getting it graded at this point? I mean, just for preservation, safety. I mean, not really preservation, but you guys know what I mean. Like just to have it in a case, protected a little bit. You can see the last couple sales for this. The last one we had was in September of 2022. So it's been a calendar year. And the last one was this 8.5 restored with quite a bit of restoration. Color touches, pieces added, tear seals, cleaned, reinforced, all 3 edges trimmed. And this is one that's kind of interesting because it's like a significant amount of restoration, but it presents beautifully, right? I mean, like once you have it in there and you have all this restoration done, I mean, it's a beautiful looking copy. And that one went for $350. Now, this 0.5 that went up for sale, where I lost my place. This 0.5 went up for sale. I mean, it's like as ugly as you get, right? As like a kind of a copy here, you know, no back cover, all this rat chew down here, and corner missing here, massive stain here, chipping, corner missing, all that stuff. But at the same time, this sold for more than this previous restored copy. How do you guys feel about that? Do you guys feel like you would rather have the beat up 0.5 with a missing back cover, or do you feel like you'd rather have this 8.5 restored that presents beautifully? I know my answer, but I'm curious what you guys think. But either way, the point where I'm going with that, here you have the 6.0 restored that went for 300,000. You have this 9.4 restored in 2019 that went for 252,000. So a lot of these restored books, another extensive one, Married Centerfold and things like that. But either way, like the entry level price point for this book is so competitive, right? It's so competitive, even at the ground level. And people really seemingly do prefer the blue label. They really do prefer the blue label, just because, I don't know, like everyone has the bias, right? Like people want the book in the state in which it was the most closest to its natural form, I suppose, right? That's what people want. Let's see here. Comic Duder says resto for sure. Okay. Michael says I'd rather have the 8.5. Eggplant says I take the restored book all day. And Troy also, I definitely take the restored copy. Wow. Okay. Yeah. I don't. Oh, okay. I'm back. Guys. I kicked out my microphone wire and then I plugged it back in and then it auto muted me. Okay. So we're all over the place. Anyways. Yeah, thank you for the heads up. But yeah, what I was saying, a lot of you guys talking about wanting the restored copy, but there definitely seems to be, the bias towards the blue labels right here, which is definitely very interesting. All right, let's kind of check back in here. We're going through these pedigrees, these Promise Collection pedigrees. Again, these are hard. They're hard sells to me, like what fair value for these things should be. You got Action 92, Promise Collection 9.4. You got Action 93, 9.8, White Pages, Promise Collection. 10,000 here, 22,000 here, 9,000 here, 10,000 here, 14,000 here. It's like, these are the type of books where you probably have to auction them in order to understand the actual price. It's probably the only way to actually really get the right value out of it, because how many people are looking specifically for these books at any given time? Like maybe the people that want to have the top of census registry, and there are those people out there for sure. Yeah, missing my take on the 0.5 of this book. I mean, just to summarize again, I think a lot of you guys are saying restored. Seems that the price of book market, what seems to be anecdotally true, is that the market prefers blue labels almost always. I mean, obviously there's a breaking point, right? And it depends on what the book is. But in this particular case, I mean, that blue label purchase is more preferred than that of the purple label restored. I mean, that's what it's showing. So it's really interesting. I think it depends on the book for me personally. What I feel like I would want it restored for versus what I think I would want a blue label for. I actually kind of think in this particular instance, I might prefer the blue label Action 1. I feel like maybe there's a charm to a book like that being so beat up. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? Like it feels like more historic because it's so beat up. That would be what I would tell myself after I spent $400,000 on a piece of paper that looked like it was rolling around in a sewer gutter. That's the cope I would have to have. I will say that this one right here, Action Comics number 101, this is a pretty cool cover, in my opinion. like very, very kind of historic, obviously with the, the atomic bomb stuff. I feel like this one it's pretty unique. It's pretty cool. And, one of the things I really like about comic books and comic book history is that you really do see comics sort of like reflecting whatever is sort of going on in the culture at the time. And you can see it change over the years. And that's what's always so cool about it. It's like you start with Superman and it's like him fighting robbers and gangsters and, almost sort of prohibition 1930s, style of criminals. And then he goes into starts, fighting Nazis in World War II. And then you get into like this Cold War stuff. And so you really start to see it, just kind of transition throughout the ages. And so I think that this cover is pretty cool, just kind of for what it is. All right, let's see if there's anything interesting to talk about here. Let me check back in with the chat. Let's see. Restored 8.5 all day over the 0.5. In fairness, he sold it really well. Yeah. Yep, I'm with you. OG condition for this book is preferred. Comic Journey, what's going on, man? Hashtag sewer paper. I buy a facsimile for presentation. Yeah, you could do that, let's see. Yikes, that ended at 28K last year. Huge drop. Are you talking about some of the Promise Collection books? The one of the things is like the Promise Collection, if you guys don't know, I think it was end of 2021 or something like that, that the Promise Collection really hit the market in a huge, huge way. And I mean, people went nuts, right? People went nuts for the Promise Collection books. Obviously, that was a different comic market at the time. And it does seem like it's really interesting that we really are seeing a lot of these Promise Collection books go back into market here in this auction. And, again, I've talked about it on the channel, how it's like, there's a constant movement of money, right? And reshuffling, just because some of these books are going up for sale is like, how many of these books are finding themselves in the hands of collectors versus in the hands of dealers? Tons of dealers I know are watching this auction right now, buying up books, right? And so I think there's probably dealers who, bought into the Promise book collection. They picked up a bunch of them, maybe tried to get some sales. Maybe they wanted to hold on to them. I don't know. And now they're thinking like, you know what? I'd rather have this capital. I'd rather sell it back into the market. Maybe I'd take a haircut on it. And, but I'd rather have this capital and try to move it into a different book, something that I would prefer to sell, or something that maybe is a little more liquid at this moment in time. So it's interesting to see that a lot of these Promise Collection books are finding themselves back into market. And kind of like what Brian was saying, I mean, you always run the risk of, taking those haircuts. We're at the barbershop today. All right, let me cover some of the previous books until we get into some of the kind of interesting stuff, and we can kind of do live price watching. But this one right here, again, Action Comics #1. I think this was one of the cool books to see. One of the great, obviously, first appearance of Superman, and it's not too often you see it. I mean, it's been a year since we've seen this go on sale, and we haven't seen a blue label in quite a while. Now, a book that is not as rare to see. Oh my God, that was so loud. I have the thing coming up here. Let me drag this audio. Hey, what are you doing? Go down. What do you mean? Why do I get the notification bell? Okay. User interface. I'm not feeling that. All right. Anyways, going back to this. Amazing Fantasy 15. This was the, I think the highest graded AF15 that went on sale. This particular auction is in the previous thing. Closed for $75,000. And one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about it is that I actually think that that is a pretty respectable sale for the book that, we've talked about how, it's had haircuts and it's had corrections and stuff like that. But eventually it was going to find that place where it reset to sort of a good spot, and I think AF15 has done that. I think it actually got too low for a little bit of time, considering that this is a forever book that everybody wants, even though it's 2,465 universal copies and it has, relative scarcity compared to some of the Golden Age books. But again, the demand is there for this book always, right? And I think 75,000 is a good price for this book. I mean, it's not quite the last sale at 78. It's not quite where it was at 93. There was one for 65,000 that sold on eBay, but still, again, where it sells now at 75 is still well above what it was going for in 2020. And as we've been kind of, evaluating with, the index stuff and taking a look at the numbers and trying to make determinations of where we are in the market, I think we're back into a place where we're definitely starting to see settling of prices for the high grade Marvel blue chips, right? And that's how it used to always be. If you read any like collector books, like written by people who are in the antiques and collectibles trades and things like that, one of the big things that they always talk about is that you want to be in the top 10% of any collectible in order for it to be truly a, investable thing. And that's what we're talking about here. At a 6.0 AF15, you can see one of the things I like about Go Collects, they actually have the percentage here. You're basically in the top percent. You're top 10%. You're top 12.8. So you're in the top 13. And so this is investable level grade. And the reason you want to be at this range is because obviously the higher up you go, the less chances there are going to be people who are paper handing it, the less times it's going to go up for auction, the more that the natural rate of inflation is going to be on a long enough time horizon so that the next time it does go up for sale, it's going to have appreciated. And we're kind of at that point where, you're starting to see it, like this book right here, AF15 at the 6.0. And then similarly, there was this Incredible Hulk #1 at the 7.5 that also sold at 84,000. And that is a very, very respectable number for this book as well. So I think that's a good sign of the market, where we are, like while we're seeing corrections in sort of mid grades and maybe not like the mega blue chip stuff, right? Like a book like FF48, that's more common Silver Age key. We're still seeing some corrections there, but you're slowly starting to reestablish, okay, guys, here's where we are. The mega keys at the high grades are starting to settle in. And then eventually you'll start to see the mega keys at the mid to low grades will start to settle in again. And the floors will be healthily established. And that's a good sign. That's a good sign for everything in the market, All right, let me check in here with some of the chat. I love collecting comics and I'm fascinated by many books, Golden Age Grails and PCH, yet I don't think I'd ever spend $5K on a book, let alone $100K, even if I was a millionaire, yet I'm happy looking on anyway. Yeah, absolutely, James. I mean, sometimes it's just fun to look at the books, it's like, I don't think even for me, it's like, I spend time on my channel and we talk about it, like investing books and things like that. And we talk about values and all that stuff. And again, it's how I approach it is always to help sort of us understand how to make good purchases and buys, because you want to protect yourself. But yeah, even if I was a multi-millionaire, I don't necessarily know if I would be prioritizing comics as like a large part of my portfolio. I mean, most of the money I spend on comics is a very, very small part of like my investing money. You know what I mean? And I think that that's the better way to do it. And it's not for everybody, but I think a lot of people, are really heavy in comics, and a lot of people can make a lot of money in comics. People do really, really well. A lot of dealers do really, really well. And so it's a very high risk. People will say it's not high risk if you know what you're doing, but it is uncertain. That is for sure. And people operate in very big bets with a lot of this stuff, but hey, people win big. They definitely win big. Do we know why Fantast is not considered a pedigree? I think Ghost Rider, I could be wrong on this, but I think pedigree requires that you bought it off the rack or its original owner collection. So I think the father of the guys who found the collection, he was a collector, right? So he was buying these books, not necessarily off the rack. He was collecting comics like all of us do. So because he's not an original owner, buying them off the rack, that's why it's not a pedigree. That's my understanding. I could be wrong, but that would be my best guess. All right, let's talk about this All-Star Comics #8, first appearance of Wonder Woman. This is one that has been really, really beat up quite a bit. The last few sales for it, it really shot up a lot when we got the first Wonder Woman movie. And I think a lot of people think that golden age comics are not susceptible to like FOMO and pop culture and all this stuff. And I mean, guys, these are pop culture collectibles, right? So even at these levels, people are susceptible to movies and hype and all of this stuff. I mean, we're all human, right? We're all human. You know, the multimillionaire who buys the Action Comics one, he sees Superman as well. Like he goes to the theater as well. You know what I mean? So, I mean, frankly, he probably has a theater in his house, but you know what I mean? He watches movies too. And we're all susceptible to this. And I think the sentiment around Wonder Woman really got pretty negative, you know, especially after 1984. And this book has definitely not been doing well since the first time we got the Wonder Woman movie. All right, so this 3.0 selling for 31,866. So let's take a look at this here. All-Star 8. Let me see if this pulls up correctly. Come on, go collect. Help me out here. All-Star 8. Got to put the space in. All right. So let's see. So 143 universal copies, 201 total on the census. Now, the 3.0 just sold at 31,000. And you can already see, up here, you know, back in 2022, you know, in the height of the market, this one was a $37,200 book. Earlier this year, it went for $28,800 on Heritage. So this one was a little bit better of a sale. But you can, and you know, this one maybe you could say uglier copy, some water stains and things like that. But generally speaking, this definitely got its biggest inflation going from 2014 to 2020 when you had the movie factor. And there's been a lot of other grades, sales of this book that have, you know, definitely corrected in some places. I think it's this 4 or 5 that really saw some volatility here. Yeah, you can see the initial spike up here, guys, was in 2016. I think that was when we got the first Wonder Woman movie. And just look at that graph, right? Just shot up tremendously. And then I kind of had to go sideways / correct a little bit. And it's probably going to go sideways for a little bit of time because it got inflated too fast. But you can see like at the natural rate of how this was, you know, appreciating, you know, it's probably going to catch up with itself, you know, sometime in like 2025 or 2026. And then it'll be back on that true incline once again. So, you know, even some of these golden age books can feel the hype and feel the kind of inflations of the market, but an all-time great book either way, right? Like Wonder Woman first appearance. I mean, that's huge. That's huge. I mean, would you guys rather have All-Star 8 or Sensation 1? I think if that's one of the things with that book too. I mean, it's not a terrible cover, but you really do wish that Wonder Woman was on the cover on this one. Not a bad looking 3.0 though. It's still a very, very cool book. I mean, I'd love to have it, right? But yeah, I mean, if that had the Sensation 1 cover, I mean, talk about some of the values. I think it'd be a book that you could, I mean, it would not be on the Detective and Action 1 level, but maybe it could start to close the gap just a little bit. All right, Eggplant, you want Sensation 1? Okay. Pretty good. All right, let me see here. Some of the other chats. Because the collection doesn't have that much keys is what I'm thinking. Not sure if the average grade of the collection. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, Brian, you're in reference to the Proms collection stuff. Silver Age keys have settled in pricing, in my opinion. Going to start seeing small gains yearly, I would think. Yeah, I think some of them have. You know, I think some of them are putting up a good fight. But it's been my speculation that most Silver Age keys have to get the COVID money out of their values. And some of them have already, you know, some of them already have. And again, this is not me being a doomer gloomer, because all of these books I think are going to stay above what they were selling for back in 2020. It's just that we got to suck a little bit of the froth out of it. And we're starting to see that, you know, with some of the high grade mega blue chips. Norban, to me, $200 is investable grade. Heck, I mean, it can be, you know, I'm saying on a really high level, but like, again, you don't need to be spending this type of money to get good returns on the money that you spend in comic books. People can do well. I mean, the bottom line is, as long as you buy it for lower than what you can sell it for, then you're going to do well, right? You can buy a $30 comic and sell it for $60 and double your money. I mean, that's great. Doubling your money. Doubling your money is excellent returns. I just purchased a Detective Comics 73 3.0 Blue Label. What's your opinion on its value and where I should flip it? Detective Comics 73, gonna have to pull that up. I know. I losing some street cred with you guys because I can't off the top of my head know what Detective 73 is. Okay, First Scarecrow. Yes. Great book. Great book. Very cool cover. So you just purchased the 73 3.0 Blue Label. What's your opinion on its value and where I should flip it? Well, it's hard to know what some of the values are. This is a book that just did sell at Comic Connect. There was a Bobby Blue version of this book. And you can see here in the 6.0 to the 5.0 range, it's $10,000 at the 5.0. And then it was $12,000 here at the 6.0. And then we could say the 5.5 was 10.5 or whatever. So let's call, maybe the 5.5 went for a little bit lower than the 5.0, but let's call this quick math, 2,000 a point. So I would expect the 4.0, let's say the 4.0 would be $8,000 and then the 3.0 would be 6,000 to 8,000, maybe. I that's just my quick sort of napkin math on it. There's probably people that could price it out better than that. I mean, here's a 3.5 went for 5,040. So maybe it could be 6,000, at this point, or if it was a little bit inflated, but I would say anywhere in that, $5,000 to $7,000 window seems like that would be where you would be with it. And then as far as, you wanting to sell it and flip it, I mean, it's up to you. I mean, it's how you want to handle it. You can sell it on eBay. You can sell it on one of the consignment pages. You can sell it at cons or in person. I mean, the thing is this is like, you can, whoever's going to be willing to give you more money than what you bought it for is where you should be selling it. And then you have to just factor in like any sort of fees and commissions that you're going to take out of that. Let's see. You're asking a long-term hold. I mean, you could make it a long-term hold, but I think you have to sort of determine, I haven't looked at this book, and again, I can't really, not financial advice, but yeah, I would say that you'd have to pull up GPA. Go Collect. I use Go Collect because it's more visually appealing for you guys. I can pull up pictures and we can look at prior sales and we can see what the book looked like with private sales. But you have to pull up GPA and you have to kind of see what are the yearly returns for a book like that. How much has it grown over the years, year over year? Because not all of these books grow perfectly at, say, like a 10% rate or whatever the case is. So let's say you look at that book and you say, okay, over the last like 10 years, it's returned 5%. Or whatever determination you make, then you have to ask yourself, okay, is it a long-term hold? Well, it can be because it can return you 5%. But then if it's money that you can just put in a CD at no risk and get 5% on a CD, then like, why would you do that? Because there's more risk in holding the comic book. Maybe you get enjoyment out of it, but you know what I mean? So it's like, this is, again, if you really want to think of it like investing and it's min-maxing your money and all that sort of stuff, which again, I can't give you guys financial advice on this type of stuff, but is it a book that is going to be great for the future? Yeah, it's always going to be a great golden age book with Scarecrow, I mean, people will always like it, but are there books that could be better selling or better investment ones? But maybe, I don't know. I'd have to do the numbers and stuff. All right, Batman 1. Let's take a look at Batman 1. Again, we had the Batman 1 sell for earlier today. We saw this one here. Batman 1 in a 3.5 went for $228,000. Now, the prior Batman 1 in a 3.5 sold for a little bit more than that. And this is something, I've talked about a few times on the channel. The Batman 1 has sold so much in these last few years. And it's surprising how much it's sold because it's an amazing book. I mean, 145 universal copies, 302 total graded. So as far as Golden Age census, I mean, that's higher on the golden age side of things, albeit not very high on the, compared to say silver age or something like that. But the amount of times this book has gone up for sale is so surprising, and it's been my speculation that I think a lot of dealers bought into these books. I think a lot of dealers always buy into books, and anytime a dealer buys into a book, they're going to look to flip it. So you have to have a certain point where a lot of books are in the hands of collectors or holders who are going to keep it for a long time for it to really, have the prices to settle and for the prices to eventually, appreciate. And I just have a feeling that when prices were going crazy, a lot of these books went up for sale for people to get their money out, and a lot of dealers bought them, and it was a hot book to have. I mean, it looks great on your wall, if you're selling at cons, fantastic book to have there. So it's a wonderful advertisement for your booth. And I think that, there's just been a lot of people turning it over and stuff. So, this 3.5 went for sale, 228,000 here. The last 3.5, I think I pulled it up, or I think I saw it earlier before the stream right here. Yeah. So back in 2021, a year ago, this was 264. So, we're talking a little bit of a, let's clean up the sideburns on asking my barber to sort of clean up, just give me a little edge. Just give me a little edge down here, although this one was kind of an uglier copy, spine splits all up in here, which by the way, I mean, guys, 3.5 with the spine splits. Come on, man. I have spine splits on my books and I get 1.0s on stuff. So what's up with that? This Batman 1 favoritism. But yeah, this one right here is selling for a little bit more. So this 3.5 that just went for a little bit less. And I think that has to do with, again, there was just so many people selling Batman 1s that, on the demand side, it's probably been affected too, where since they have been coming up so often, like people who have the money and want them have had the ability to buy them. But this 1.8 sale, I think, was probably a pretty decent price, considering some of the prior sales. I would just guess 114 here in June. So that was 114,000. Yeah. And then this one went for, what did we say? 138. So a really, really strong sale for the low end. And this could be kind of what we were talking about earlier with, it's like that entry level price versus like the 3.5 price, where it's like you're well into the book at that point, as far as like a buy-in price. And the entry level price is, again, not going to be a perfect point per grade thing because people just want it. They just want to get it. So at this level, it's like, did they overspend by like 10 or 15 grand? Yes. But at that level, it's like, well, screw it. I just want it. I want it now, and so they just bought it. So, and here's a great point. And then Tim, Batman 135 has detached cover with exception of bottom front stable. So, and this is another great point too. Again, we're talking about these books. We're trying to rationalize. We're trying to talk about prices. But again, there's so many factors that can affect one sale to the next, right? And in this market, I think people are just more discerning. I think this is true even of golden age stuff, right? Where it's like when everything is really crazy and there's hype and there's, free money going on, people they just get it. They're more aggressive. And now it's sort of like, you can be discerning. So if you're somebody who's spending, this type of money on a book and you're like, I don't like that it's a detached cover. I don't really care. And so, yeah, that book can totally sell for less than what the prior sale was, right? Because people are discerning. They care a lot about this stuff. And it really just depends on the book. It really just depends. With Batman 1, because there's been so many, you have options, relatively speaking. And the thing is this: if you have money, to spend, and you call up Vincent Zerzolo from Comic Connect, and you probably have his number, and you're just like, "Yo, Vince, I want to buy a Batman 1." Like, he'll make that happen for you. You know what I mean? Like, it's just money to get that book, even though it's rare. Some books aren't just money. Some books, it's like, it's like, hey, Vince, I want to buy a Suspense 3. And it's like, yeah, get in line. Swaggle hoss, Batman 1 coverless, 0.5, 27,000. There's your floor, guys. There's your floor right there. Some other Batman ones. So these were cool to see. Again, with the Batman stuff, this is where my Superman homerism comes in, guys, here, where, again, it's not up to me to decide what the market thinks, but a lot of these early Batmans have been doing so well recently. They really, really have shot up, and they've become very, very desirable. A lot of collectors realizing that, a sub number 20 Batman is such a good book to have in your collection. So many of these ones are competitive. I mean, it's Batman 2. Batman 2 in the 6.5, $15,000, Absolutely. And then there's this one right here, Batman 3.80. I think this might be one of my favorite early Batman covers. I think I might like Batman 9 better. Is 9 the one that has the spotlight, where they got the spotlight shine on them? I think I might like that one better. I love the black cover on this. I mean, beautiful 8.0 copy. Super, super cool. A key book. First Catwoman, appearance and costume before she really looked like Catwoman. Or no. First, this is the first of her actual costume. She's had her first appearance where she was had a cat mask on and stuff like that. But a beautiful book, $36,000. I mean, again, such demand for these types of books, especially at that level. But this is where I was saying, guys, I was like, dude, but I think some of these super early Superman can be so cool. I don't know. Maybe he's a Boy Scout. You guys, I'm a guy who likes Captain America. Thus, I also like Superman. And then you have books like this, which I think are funny. Batman 5. No disrespect to people out there who have the Batman 5s. But, you can see that the market prefers the cover that just have the more interesting aesthetics. I just don't know. People just don't like this Batman playing with dolls thing. And I mean, no comment. You know what I mean? And so the 6.5 going for 4,000. So, with a lot of these covers, you really have to put on your artist hat, right? And you really have to determine the aesthetics of covers, what makes them great. Why would someone prefer one over the other? Are they in a cool pose? Do they look heroic? Is it, are they, is it a dynamic cover? You really have to use those determinations. And if you can start to think that way, you'll definitely start to see oh yeah, okay, I understand why someone would rather have Batman and Robin running and looking cool and heroic versus, Batman playing with toys. And it makes a difference in the prices of what they go for. Let's see here. What up, Swaggle? Nick Stamper, what's going on, man? Good to see you. Thanks for stopping in. Let's see. James says, did Batman ever fight the Axis of Powers in the Golden Age on a cover? Did he ever have Nazi covers and stuff? Yeah, probably, right? I don't know. Maybe he didn't. I can't think of any off the top of my head. Do you guys know in the chat? Did he have any World War II related covers? He had to have, right? Or maybe they kind of saved him for, kid stuff, right? Because this would have been the time, propaganda time. Batman 1, 1940 through Batman 16, 1943. So maybe in some of the Detective Comics ones, but maybe he didn't. It could have been that Batman was more of a kids character or designed for kids, right? And so they were like, okay, we're not going to do propaganda stuff. And it was really the Timely books, Timely doing Human Torch, Submariner, Captain America, that those were genuinely designed for propaganda. Even Superman, I made mention in when I picked up my Superman 13 in that video, where it's really interesting. You can see the progression of Superman covers, and you can see how they play it pretty safe when you compare it to what Human Torch and Captain America were doing, as far as the heavy-handedness of the propaganda. All right, Ken says, Batman has one cover with Axis, Hitler, Mussolini, and Hirohito on it. Okay, so maybe Brian, the Batman 18, is that what it is? Let's pull it up. We have the internet. Batman 18. Okay, yeah. So this one's kind of interesting. A book like this, because on the one hand, you could say, hey, it's so rare, right? It's so rare to actually have a World War II related Batman cover. And that makes this one pretty special. But then you have the counterbalance of it, like, kind of a kiddish, goofy cover, right? So like you can tell definitely Batman was targeted at kids. They're doing a more of like a Looney Tunes sort of slapstick thing at this time, telling people to buy war bonds and stamps, buy war bonds. So good. But Batman 18 right here, so kind of maybe there's some underratedness in this. But at the same time, comic collectors like their aesthetics. So if that was a heroic action-based cover with him punching Hitler, this would be one of the mega Batman keys. You know what I mean? But it's still expensive. I mean, you can see a 2.5 is still, $1,500, a 4.5, 3,500. So, it's still a pricey book. And I'm sure there's a lot of collectors that would want it. All right, let's check back in here with the auction. We had a Batman 16, first appearance of Alfred, go up for sale. Very cool book. I love the again, the other one with the spotlight is always very cool to see, like kind of this gangster guy who's got him here. And then, it's a first Alfred. So this is always one that is, kind of a key that a lot of collectors go after, that a lot of people like. 13,800. Feels like a respectable sale, right? For that book right there. Let's take a look. 16, 7.5. It's also a book though that I think I call it a ladder book, or it's like kind of a slingshot book. People will get it, they'll find a good price at it, and then they'll realize that I kind of want to jump up to a different key, after that. But that 7.5 was definitely one of the highest grade copies that's been sold for a while. So could be a very, very respectable number for that. Let's take a look here. We had a 8.5 go for 27,000. So one grade less. The 6.0 went for 9,000. That was a pedigree. So it's been a little while. It's hard to sort of predict what that should have sold for, what that could have sold for. And then we're kind of getting into pre 2021 prices, which kind of affects stuff. I mean, when I look at this 8.5, maybe that was a little bit weaker of a sale, or maybe it was perfect. It's hard to determine. You'd have to kind of dig your heels in and figure it out. All right, here we have the age-old question once again, guys. We got to compare Captain America comics coming up. Now, earlier in the day, we had Captain America comics #1 in a 2.0 grade sell for $114,000. Pretty respectable 2.0. A really nice 2.0, I would say. A really nice 2.0. Great colors on this one. Entry-level copy. I mean, this is a great looking 2.0. Now, Captain America hasn't always been as desired as some of the, say, Supermans and the Batmans and all that sort of stuff. Like, this book hasn't quite, hit those sort of like same level of returns year over year. But I think it's getting there a little bit. But there's been a lot of turnover, and you can see this 3.5 was the last sale at 168,000. This one for 114. I think it's probably a respectable sale for this. Let's see if I can kind of just do some quick napkin math. So a 3.0 went for 144. Probably been a little while since the 2.0 went up for sale. Just getting in the club price. Yeah, we go back to like 2020 and stuff. So $90,000 in 2020. This one selling for 114 seems like, very, very kind of sign of the comic book market, right? Sign of the comic book market, about a 10% increase in value over the course of that 2020 price to where we are now. So yeah, a very, very respectable sale. Now the question is, with this one coming up that we're on right now with a 7.5, this conserved grade that has staples cleaned, centerfold. What does that say? All right, hold on. Let's listen to what she has to say. This one's going for a lot.
120 asking for 130. Demand for this book right here is always high. What do you say to 130? Not to mention this exceptional eye appeal on here. 130,000 is next. Use that cut increment. If you're hovering over the bid button and you're hesitant, move over to that cut bid and cut it at 125,000. You definitely want to use your cut increment here on this lot. Do not waste it. 120 out of it, 130.
She's selling it. She's selling it hard.
Last chance. 130.
Oh, see? You see, guys? She was pushing it, right? She was like, use the cut bid, blah, blah, blah. And then she got the bid. It really makes a difference. There it is. She's working it. She's working it. She's telling anecdotes. Woo! All right. 168,000. See, that was kind of what I was saying. Is like, she really pushed it. She was, milking it. She was telling anecdotes of her coworker wearing Captain America socks. I mean, this stuff makes a difference, right? Because it's like, there are people there live that are bidding, but then there's people who are just sitting in this thing like me, and you can get swept up and be like, she gives you that extra 5-10 seconds to think about it. And you're like, yeah, you know what? She's right. She's right. I should bid on this. And you click that button, you click that button. So this one, 7.5 conserved, selling for 168,000. So more than that of the 2.0 grade. And this one is, again, really, really interesting. What do you guys think in the chat? Would you rather spend, what was it? 50,000 extra dollars, 48,000 extra dollars for this 7.5 conserved with staples cleaned? Or would you rather have the 2.0 that's sold regular blue labeled, tape on interior and centerfold for 114? You can get $48,000 less on this one right here. It's kind of an interesting thing, I mean, that's really unfortunate that this had staples cleaned. I mean, I have to pull up the grader's notes, but is that all the conservation that was done for this book? Because it's like, why would they do that? Like, why would you clean the staples? Like, it's if that's all that needed to be done with it, like, that seems like you probably shouldn't have done that. I think it would definitely sell for a lot more if, let's say, I don't know what dirty staples knock it down to. Even if it knocks it down to like whatever, a 4.0, like, you'd still get probably higher than what this got right here, 168, or maybe not, right? But a beautiful copy. Conservation, I think, is something that people do pay a little bit more for, because if you guys don't know, conservation is essentially, it has this little gray strip up here, and it says right there on the label, conserved it's effectively restoration, but it's branded under the guise that it's conservation. We must protect these collectibles. They must stay in as pristine shape as possible. And so because it's a little more professionally done, and it's done in a way that is not like, oh, I'm trying to get one over on you by doing color touch, it is valued a little bit higher. It's valued a little bit higher, but effectively it's restoration. Now, I don't know how you guys feel about conservation versus, blue label stuff. I think most collectors still would like blue labels, but I do think that there is a place for conservation, especially with some of these golden age books, All right, let's see here. Mike Pharisee says, how is that different than a clean and press? I think the clean and press is usually I could get this wrong. Maybe someone in the chat will be able to explain better. But a clean and press is subtractive cleaning, right? If I'm erasing something, a stain or a mark from a book, I'm just taking away the stain. I think when the staples are cleaned, it's probably something that they use like a chemical or a soap or some kind of thing to clean it. So because you're using a chemical that is additive cleaning, then it is restored or conserved. So it's really subtractive versus additive in terms of what constitutes restoration versus what constitutes as cleaning and pressing, right? So I think that's the big distinction, because again, you're trying to get a book to be simulated to what exactly how it was. If you could go back in time to 1941 and pull this book straight off the rack, right? Like just, that's where you want to reset to. So that's kind of what it is. Kenby says, definitely the Conserve 7.5 with minor stable clean over the 2.0. Okay, Ken. Yeah. I mean, it seems like a lot of people, you guys in the chat, prefer the restored action one, versus the other one. Why Not Comics in the house? What's going on? Why Not? Good to see you. Thanks for stopping in. Definitely go check out Why Not Comics, guys, if you haven't. See here. I think cleaning the staples makes the longevity of the actual book paper a smart move for long-term collectors, and I see it differently from restoration in my mind. Yeah, I think conservation is certainly more respected as a practice than that of restoration, simply because it's the difference. I mean, they call it amateur restoration for a reason, right? It's like a difference of like a certified conservation company versus like some guy who put color touch in his comic book room in order to sell it as a better presenting copy, I only collect blue labels. Mike, makes sense to get it. Oh yeah. I mean, and I could be wrong, but that's probably what it is. But that isn't something that would normally get the purple label. Well, if we're asking about the conservation, I don't know what the what official channels you have to go through to get conservation as a label, but there's probably certain companies that CGC has recognized as official conservation people, and they probably have some deal with them, or they work with them, or whatever it is. Maybe it's internal to CGC. They have CCS, that's their pressing and restoration services. Maybe they do the conservation, but I think it has to be recognized for sure. All right, let's kind of go on now. Check out some of these other Captain America books that sort of flew by. Now we had Captain America Comics number 17. A nice, cool book, but probably not one of the key Cap books. I not to belabor, but in case there's people in the chat that are wondering what makes certain Cap books or certain World War II books keys, so to speak, is there's a few things you're looking for, especially in Captain America. Alex Schomburg to do the covers for his books. People just like his covers more than that of, in this particular instance, Al Avison doing the cover. Usually you want to see Captain America going up against some Nazis, punching Hitler in the face, things like that, which in this one he's punching, I don't even know what he's punching. And then, maybe some damsel in distress stuff, like if he's saving a girl in a red dress or stuff like that. So those are the aesthetics that people look for, in a similar situation here. This other book, even though it's an 8.0, selling at $8,000, it's a lot of money, but not necessarily one of the big mega keys, especially at this grade level that people are going after, because again, Sid Shore's cover, not a Schomburg cover, right? Not one of the ones that people like. Versus we go to, let's see, this cover right here, the next one. See, at the 7.0 range, this book sells at $9,000, more than that of the prior two higher grade ones. And one of the reasons why Captain America Comics 26 is deemed a key is because right there, Alex Schomburg cover, people prefer the aesthetics of his covers more than that of the other Cap artists. And here you have a cool Captain America, fighting Nazis that are trying to TNT and blow up this ship and whatever. And then this one's right here because it has the shark on it. Anytime you have a shark on the cover, people are going to like this one. So those are some of these aesthetics. And you'll see, Captain America is drawn so much better by Schomburg than the other artists. He looks better. His proportions are better. He just is more heroic. He's more handsome, compared to, he's all over the place, in this one. No disrespect to Al Avison. No disrespect. I'm just saying. There's a reason why people like Schomburg. And then you have a cover like this, which has some of the elements where it's a Schomburg cover and you got the girl bondage tied up right here and stuff. But he's not fighting the Nazis. He's fighting Japanese soldiers right here, kind of getting into, yellow face territory and stuff. And these are still very, very cool, but the key ones are fighting Nazis, tied up girl, and Schomburg making him look heroic. Those are the key factors. And anytime you have those are going to be the books that sell for a lot of money. So, but cool to see some of these sales. This shark cover going for $9,000. That almost feels like a good deal, to be honest. Considering some of the Bobby Blue prices that people were paying, that feels like it could have been a pretty good price overall. All right, we had a little turnover here of our auctioneer. We got this guy who was doing it earlier in the day with some of the books that he was selling, some of these big mega grails, and every auctioneer has their own version, their own aesthetics. And so it'll be interesting to see, how he does. Some other books that passed by here: Cryptid Terror, pedigree label, Gaines file copy. Kind of a cool one, not necessarily one of the keys, but an early Tales from the Crypt book before it turned over to Tales from the Crypt. Always cool to see these ones, with the pedigree label. Shout out to Drew, Como Comic Books. He always makes the joke, or I don't know if it's his joke or whatever, but with EC Comics, you either have file copies at the 9.8 range, or you have beat up copies, that are like 3.0 or less. Finding a 6.0 is really, that's when it's like, wow, what a find, but always cool to see a book like this go for sale, $8,000 for that one. All right, let me clean up some of the windows here. All right, let's take a look at this guy here selling this Detective Comics number 33.
This one, 28,000 bidders. The fourth issue, that's the cut. Give me 30,000. Thomas Wayne and Martha Wayne first appearance here, and Joe Chill as well. 30,000.
First Thomas and Martha Wayne.
32,000 up next, bidders. 31 is the cut. See if it works. 32.
Such an awesome book right here. So some of the, so many of these early Batman detective covers, Batman just looks so awesome. Look at the cape. Look at the work on that. It's so sick.
34. Up issue as well. There's 34. How about 36? Iconic covers.
I'm gonna need a little more excitement from him,
36,000. Who's got 36? That's what we're looking for. Anybody at 36,000? Fair warning. There's the 36. Hard one to let go. You don't have to.
All right, he got a couple extra bids. There's the 38.
40,000. One of the classic Crusader images here. Discovered. Hovering over the back. We need 40,000 bidders to make it yours. Anyone at 40? Last chance. Get in now with 40,000. Hello. 38,000.
All right, there you have it. First Thomas and Martha Wayne, 45,000. He also sold this other Batman, or this other detective, earlier in the day. Amazing book right here. Third appearance of Batman, second Batman cover. So, outside of Detective 27, This is probably the second best Batman to get. I don't know. What do you guys think? Second time he's on the cover. Shout out to Drew and Ryan. They actually prefer this cover to that of Detective 27. It's a really great cover. Got the bat, you got the moon here, you got the bats outside, you got these guys doing evil, apothecary stuff, which is always cool. You got a skull on the cover right there, which is pretty unique to have. Really, really cool cover. But this one actually took a little bit of the Brutus the Barber beefcake haircut. Took a little bit of the haircut. Selling for $81,000. The last one sold for $101,000, and that was back in maybe 2020 or something like that. Now, this one had slightly brittle pages. The last one had, I think, off-white pages, and this one has these two anchor stamps right here, which to me, I think stamps like this, I actually like those types of things. I think date stamps are cool. But anytime you're operating in this space and you have these little things like date stamp, like there might be one person that doesn't like stuff like that. Or maybe they care about page qualities, and they don't like brittle pages. And so if you just take out one person from, say, the 10 that are in the market for this particular book, then that can give it a $20,000 haircut. You know what I mean? But it's really interesting. I almost wonder, how many people do you think are actively bidding in the market on the book? I wonder, is it like 5 people? Is it 30 people? Somewhere in between? I mean, like seriously, that are bidding on it. I mean, everyone is in it when it's sitting at $1, but you know what I mean? Where they were like, oh, I want this book. I want to walk home today with it. But pretty cool. Tech 31. Yeah. You're right. Tech 31 might be the best cover for sure. Certainly one of the more iconic ones. Raleigh comic book collector in the house. What's going on, man? I snagged one book. Want to guess which it was? Ooh. Well, I know you picked up some of the Cap books in the Bobby Blue collection. And I don't know. Did you buy one of the Cap ones? Is that where you were at? So let me know. Let me know in the chat if you're willing to disclose. I'm sure you will post it on Instagram. If you guys don't know, Raleigh comic book collector, comic book dealer. He's on Instagram and stuff. Go check him out. Go follow his pages and stuff like that. Apparently he bought one of the books. I don't know. All right, a couple Detective Comics ones here. These are some of the great Joker covers, guys. Some of the favorite Joker covers. This one right here, Detective Comics number 62. Now, it's not Joker's first cover appearance. That one is on, help me in the chat, but I would say this is maybe one of his first cool cover appearances, because his first cover appearance kind of leaves a little bit to be desired. But this is one of the first times I think you really get to sort of see him, in his full uniform, purple, like he looks like the Joker. So this is a very, very cool book, in my opinion. It's a Promise Collection book, very, very early. And yeah, 25,200, one of the great Joker covers for that character. Additionally, you have this one right here, which is also one of the great Joker covers, Detective Comics number 69. People love this one. It's kind of like the genie in the bottle cover right here, where I don't know if this is like a dream sequence or something that Batman is having, but he's kind of coming out of the bottle here and he's got the two guns. People really love this one. It's actually not my favorite. Maybe it's because it is a dream sequence thing going on, but it's got a lot of great elements to it. I mean, it's a black cover, great Joker pose, got the guns. People like that stuff. Pennsylvania pedigree collection. So these ones going back to back, obviously big boy Joker books, always in demand by the market. People always want those ones. And yeah, very, very cool to see them sell. All right, let's see here. maybe if I strike oil in my backyard, I can afford this. Yeah. Yeah. We could only hope, right? We can only hope that we all discover oil one day. So not today, low rent, all flash one, CG665. Oh, very cool. Yeah. All flash one. Definitely a cool book. Congratulations on picking that one up. I don't know. Was that one in this session? No. It was in the prior session, right? I think so. Oh, no. It wasn't this session. Let's go back a little bit. All flash one. I think we kind of glossed over that one. There it is. All flash 165. Nice new pickup for you right here. Origin of Flash Retold. First solo Flash title. There he is, guys. The original Flash. The original Flash. Very cool to see that. How are you a fan of the helmet? This is like such golden age costume design to me. You know, I laugh at this stuff now because, you know, it's a little tongue in cheek, I think, for today's aesthetics, but it's cool. It's cool that they use the helmet, you know, in the film and stuff. But this is obviously a huge book. People love this. Flash collectors out there. So all black cover, very, very, very tough book. So congratulations on that. That's a huge pickup. All right, we got some more. We're still in the Promise Collection section. So yeah, again, guys, you know, Promise Collection books, like look at all these ones that are going up for sale, you know, just back to back to back to back to back. And nothing of the major keys, you know, again, it's a particular buyer that's going to want this stuff. It is cool to have that label on it. No doubt. I think of the Promise Collection books, you know, I think that the Promise Collection is probably, or I should say, of the pedigrees, I think the Promise Collection is definitely one of the cooler ones. I think the history of it, the story of it, now the hype sort of surrounding it, you know, I'd say it's definitely one of the most known pedigrees. And the Promise, like Promise to me sounds cooler than, say, Pennsylvania Collection. You know what I mean? So I think the branding even of it itself is still really cool. Oh, you traded your 5.5 with Alex the Comic Hoarder. Oh, very cool. Okay, so it was an upgrade for you. So you still have the 6.0. Now we'll have it at 6.5. Very cool. Gotcha. Well, is your goal to keep going up? Is this like one of your favorite sort of books that you just kind of want to continue to work your way up? But very cool. Shout out to Alex the Comic Hoarder. Maybe he'll make a video about that. Guys, definitely check out Alex the Comic Hoarder, guys. He has, I'm envious. Like he truly has, like, I mean, you have to put in the time and the work, but he truly has some of the best discoveries, treasure hunt finds for comic books of anybody out there. You know, every time I go to a garage sale, like I feel like if I'm finding comic books, which I rarely am ever finding comic books, it's like a bunch of Jim Lee X-Men ones. You know what I mean? But I feel like Alex just, I don't know, he's just finding, you know, Submariner ones and stuff in barns and things like that. It's incredible. It's really, really incredible. But shout outs to him. Well, let's kind of take a look, see if there's anything exciting coming up. We have a Detective Comics 168, big book, first Red Hood, you know, not my personal favorite, but a great, you know, Batman character. Oh, we got this first Carl Barks Donald Duck book. That one's kind of exciting to talk about. Oh, and Looney Tunes Merry Melodies, guys. Funny books. Let's go. Funny books to the moon. You know, could be cool to see. And then, yeah, these back to back, I'm very interested. So Looney Tunes Merry Melodies and Marvel Mystery Comics #4. For sure, we're going to talk about that. Let me see here. James here with a question. Swag, what are your niche sub-collections within your overall collections? Example, I collect superhero identity reveals, deaths, and identity swap covers. Do you have any niches like that? I mean, my niche for sure is Darkhawk, right? Like I do collect all the Darkhawk stuff. He's my random favorite character, but you guys know that. I have some really random niche stuff that I like. I don't know if these are niche. I like a lot of video game stuff, fantasy things too. So I have like some Magic the Gathering comics and World of Warcraft comics and D&D stuff. So, you know, never stuff it's not stuff that's all that expensive or anything, or, you know, some of it may be $100 book here or there, but like I'd say that those are kind of my niche things that I enjoy and that I like. All right, let's kind of check back in with some of these other big sales that I think were interesting to talk about. So we talked about Action 1, we talked about Amazing Fantasy 15. All right, we didn't talk about Avengers number 498. Let's talk about this one right here because it was pretty interesting. Avengers 4, CGC 98, white pages. I mean, a perfect copy of this book. Well, 98's gonna have spine ticks, right? We've determined this, guys. 98's gonna have spine ticks. It's fine. It's fine. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful copy of this book right here. Selling for $132,000. Now, one of the interesting things about this is that, you know, some of these books, not all of them get, you know, always returns, right? Not all of them do perfect year over year returns on this stuff. Sometimes it's random. And so this right here, we saw the last time a 9.8 of this book sold was actually back in 2017 on Heritage Auctions. And it was an off-white to white pages book, went for $143,000. So, you know, imagine you're somebody who bought this book, $143,000. You're at the investment grade level, you know, you're at the top 2.2% for this book. And then the next sale happens 6 years later and it sells for less at 132. So this is where, you know, it's one of those things again, like, you know, these markets aren't perfect and not every book is always going to be, you know, the great investment book or whatever the case is. Now, this one's a little bit different. You know, it's Avengers 4. It's a really cool book. One of my favorite sort of Silver Age books, but I love Cap. But again, it's not his actual first appearance. It's his first Silver Age. And then you have a lot of competition because it's, you know, you have people who might prefer Captain America Comics #1. I mean, for this amount of money, you could get Cap Comics #1 in a 2.0, as we established in this auction. So this is really for that person who has to have the best of the best. Like you need the 9.8 white pages, you know? So this book taking a little bit of a haircut and not necessarily a book that at this level had a tremendous return on investment, right? But again, this is why, you know, any given sale, any given day for a lot of these books. So you always, you never know. You never know with some of this stuff. All right, let's check back in here. Got this Detective Comics. I'm going to let the auctioneer take it away.
5.0, give me 14,000 for 14. Joker origin story told here. Red Hood saga revealed, looking for 14,000. Great cover as well. It's going to go 14.
Hot tip, guys. Hot tip. When you're watching these auctions, always make sure to click disable live bidding. You know, you don't want to misclick, especially when you're watching the platinum auctions. So hot tip, make sure if you're not intending to buy anything, you hit this big button right here in the middle, and you turn off live bidding.
Good news. You're right back at 15,000. Just like that. Anybody at 15? Who's going to go 15? No, you want it, but you got to act now. We need advance to 15,000. Oh, played. 14,000 wins it. Last second bid.
All right, 16,800 at the 5.0. Detective Comics 168. I'm curious about this one. Detective Comics 168. Let's take a look, kind of see what this went for. How do we feel about it? 5.0 range. I mean, we've seen a few go for sale. And yeah, this is actually, that was actually, I think, a right in line sort of price for this, right? Where you can quickly see 11,000 at the 4.0 or 11.8, and then you have 12.6 here at the 4.5, and then a decent little bump, you know, to 16,000 once you get to like that next tier of grade at 5.0, and then you get to that next tier of 6.0 and 19,000. So very, very strong, respectable sale for that book. Definitely a book that continues to be in demand, and people definitely like it. All right, we're gonna wait a little bit until we get to Donald Duck here, 4-color 9. All right, so we talked about that Avengers 4 selling for 132, and yeah, Seth, like you said, definitely a book that will always struggle at the top, like you said, because of the money you need to obtain it, and can go to his actual first appearance. Yeah, so it's a already a specific buyer who has the money to spend at this level, and then even more specific of the type of person who really just wants it because it's the best of the best. So kind of an interesting one. We talked about Batman 1 at the 3.5 here. We talked about Captain America Comics #1 at the 2.0. We talked a little bit about Detective Comics #29 here as well, taking a little bit of the Brutus the Barber beefcake haircut. I also implied earlier when we were talking about AF-15 that the Incredible Hulk 175 was a respectable sale because, like I said, these Marvel blue chips at the high grade are starting to finally find themselves, at respectable levels. And I think eventually, mid grades and stuff, and maybe like the bigger, the key books, but not the blue chips, those still have a little bit of a time to feel some volatility, but they will eventually find themselves as well. All right, but let's move over to More Fun Comics #73. First appearance of Aquaman, first appearance of Green Arrow, and first appearance of Speedy, a triple first appearance book. This was a beautiful copy, 7.0 white pages, a little bit of a stainy thing here going on, but doesn't bother me too much. Really, really nice copy right here. The Aquaman trailer came out today. Do you guys see that one? And maybe that helped this book a little bit because 114,000 was a pretty good sale. I mean, I think that's probably where it should have been, wanted to be. But I think a respectable sale, if not, seller got a good deal, Let's take a look here. So 38 universal copies, very, very hard to find book. 62 total graded. And it's been a while since we've had some of these sales. The 6.0 went for 90,000 about a year ago at this point. There you see it, 90,000, in December of 2022. We had a 6.5 go for 102,000, in April of 2022. And then we had the 7.5 go for 111 in April of 2021, kind of right when things were getting crazy in the comic market. But I don't know if, say, a book like Aquaman, Golden Age book, was feeling that market inflation just yet. It was maybe a little bit behind, but I'd say this $114,000 number is a good number to hit. If I was the seller, I'd be happy getting that number. And it's an interesting book. Again, you have different options here for these types of books. 7.0 last sale for that was 72,000 back in 2019. So really good return. If you're somebody, we're talking about, say, comparing the Avengers 4 to a book like this, right? Where back in 2017, you buy the Avengers 4 at the 9.8 level for 140, and you actually have a negative ROI 6 years later. Whereas in this book, you buy this at 72,000, and 4 years later, you have made, $40,000. So that's, a better book to invest in, so to speak. But it's cool to see this book. I mean, it's kind of, again, it's a more interesting collector. Like, how many people out there are really the big Aquaman, Green Arrow fans? But at the same time, you have 3 first appearances in this book. So it's a good buy. It seems like a book that it's respected. People like it, but at the same time, maybe it's underappreciated. It's Aquaman, man. Everyone likes to make fun of Aquaman. All right, let's see here. Being a comic book collector isn't about who can roll the biggest doobie. Sometimes you have to burn your fingers and lips on a roach. Seth says, definitely a book that will always struggle. Okay, yeah, we said it here. Some collectors are like salt. They can't do anything with 1 grain. They want a pinch of salt. Wait. I think I'm missing your metaphors here. Happy to get that number is an understatement. You think so? I mean, I feel like it was a good number. I think if you were doing predictions of what it would sell for, I think you would say, yeah, around there, 100, 110, something like that, 114. He got the Aquaman trailer bump. So a good respectable sale for Aquaman there. I won't hold my breath for that movie. It's so far the DC movies have not been great, and I don't know if Aquaman is going to change that. All right, let me check back in to the live, see what's going on here. Where are we at? Okay, we're almost at 4 color. We're currently at Flash Comics number 2. Kind of a cool book. Second appearance here. Flash and Hawkman. First Hawkman cover, which is always kind of cool to see. 1940. So definitely a cool book. Second appearance, first cover. But I am interested in this one right here. 4 color 9. I like Looney Tunes characters. Is my mic check? Is my mic going on? I think it's working. It should be working. All right, in case you guys don't know, Carl Barks is kind of the what would you say, the godfather of drawing sort of the Looney Tunes sort of characters and stuff like that. This is the first Carl Barks drawing Donald Duck. So while it's not the first Donald Duck, this is one of the sort of Donald Duck grails, one of the Disney grails in terms of comic books right here. So a very, very cool book, in my opinion.
78.
And we got it for 8.0 going for $8,400. Don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but very cool book. One I'd love to own, maybe like a low grade of this book at some point. Some of these books, like Merry Melodies, Looney Tunes. Oh man, I so would get that book. I know you guys are thinking like, why would you get the Looney Tunes books? Oh, you had that question earlier where it was like, oh, what's your random stuff that you actually like? I actually do kind of like some of the funny books. I do. Metal Bum, what's going on, man? Good to see you. Thanks for stopping in. All right, let's kind of finish out some of the earlier sale discussions and just kind of get through some of these ones because these were obviously some of the premier big books that we started the morning with. This one right here, I think, was the flagship book of the auction. I mean, it was literally on the thumbnail for the Heritage Auction event, and it is literally on my thumbnail for this stream. But we had Punch Comics number 12, the Gus Rika skull cover. Probably the grail of grail skull covers. We'll lump it into PCH, although it's not quite a PCH book. It's not quite horror. It's actually a gangster comic book. But early skull cover, the greatest of skull covers, 1945, Harry Chesler, pedigree label, the Crowley copy, CGC 8.0 cream to off-white, selling for $204,000. This is top of census. There is one other Punch Comics 12 books at an 8.0, but it is not a pedigree label. So you could fairly argue that this was the top of census book because of the pedigree factor. And I would say that $200,000 is an absolute banger sale for this book right here. I think shout out to Automatic. He kind of predicted it to go around 200,000, but there was going to be, some wiggle room with this book because you never really know with top of census. And actually for a while before it actually sold, it was actually sitting at around like 90,000, maybe 100,000 or so. And the auctioneer, we're talking about auctioneers putting in work for books. The auctioneer put in work for this book. He really did. He stuck with it. He sold it. He told stories in between each bid. He was like, one of the great skull covers, blah, blah, blah. And it really does make a difference. And it gave people enough time to push this book up $100,000, right? We've been seeing by the time the lot comes to some of these auctioneers, maybe it gets another 30, 40, 50% value on it. But this one doubled from where it was currently sitting. So people really wanted this book. Now, this one was interesting because if you guys are familiar with this cover, again, Ryan pointed this out to me and he had a good point. This cover is pretty yellow. It's fairly yellow. Like this skull, kind of a cream skull. You know, some other covers have a much whiter skull, and you would think that that could have hurt the value of this book. But I think the fact that it's in this pedigree label, I think that got it up to the $200,000 price point. You can see, I mean, this is by far the record sale for this book. Previous, we had a 5.5 go for 90,000 back in November of 2022, and we had a 5.5 go for 71,000 prior to that, but that was it. It's this 8.0 copy sold back in 2002 for $2,500. Could you imagine, guys? If only, right? If only you were that person back in 2002 that bought this copy for $2,500 and you're like, I just 20x'd my money. I 100x'd my money, selling it here. So huge sale for Punch Comics 12. Definitely continues to be one of the great pre-crime comics, the all-time great skull cover, and a huge sale for that book. Newbie's in the house, late but here. What up, swag? Good to see you, Newbie. Thanks for stopping in. If you guys don't know, check out Newbie Comics. Let's see here. FOMO Baggins says, hey, swag, I got my Sanity cover B in the scheduled for grading status. Hoping for that elusive 9.9, fingers crossed. Hey, very, very cool, FOMO. Cool to see that you are grading it. Fingers crossed, 9 9s, 10 O's. If you don't get a 10-0, I don't know what to tell you. Those books were crispy. Actually, no, there were a lot of damages in some of those books. I tried very, very hard to make sure that everyone got 9 8s. So fingers crossed for you, man. Fingers crossed. It was actually kind of cool. Shameless plug. A 9.8 of my book went up for auction on eBay. $1 start. Somebody let it rip. And it sold for $80. So, hey, I'm creating wealth out there for people. They buy the book for 20, they grade it for 20, and they double their money. See that? Sanity #1 doubles your money. All right, let's check it back in here with Heritage Auction. Green Lanterns. Okay, we're almost at Looney Tunes. Okay, we have 3 bangers in a row. 3 bangers in a row. Jackpot #4. Looney Tunes Merry Melodies #1, and Marvel Mystery Comics #4. So those will be cool to watch. And then we can kind of finish out with some of the earlier books in the day. If you guys don't know, Jackpot Comics #4 is the first Archie cover. You can see right here, he is in the little bubble right there. New feature Archie. So there you see him right there. First Archie cover. And a book that was actually in the Bobby Blue collection that recently went on sale. Let's see what this one finishes for.
7,500, 7,250 the cut, 75. Bristol, we're looking for 8,000. Who's going to go 8,000? First cover appearance for Archie as well. We're looking for 8,000. Anybody at 8,000? There's 8,500. We had a Pryor. Pryor over here. Bristol, let's go 8,500.
I think that the Bobby Blue book was also a 6.5, which makes it interesting. But I would say that the Bobby Blue books did get what I would say is premiums for. They weren't pedigrees, but they got pedigree premiums, which pedigrees can get you like around 5% or so. Okay, so the Bobby Blue one was a 5.5, I believe. Yeah, it was a 5.5. Went for $93.15. So what is this one currently at? Oh, we did get the sale. So look at that. So that's really interesting, guys. So the 6.5 got 9,900, and the Bobby Blue one got 9,300. You would expect the 6.5, a grade higher, to have sold for more than $600 more, but it didn't, because the Bobby Blue books, they really did get a a bigger bump because of the status of the collection. And maybe I had a hand in it. Maybe I played a role because we got the word out there on the Bobby Blue collection. Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies #1. If you guys don't know, one of the great funny books right here. First appearance of Bugs Bunny in comics. First appearance of Daffy Duck in comics. Porky Pig and Elmer Fudd. I mean, you are getting, the Looney Tunes All-Stars right here on that book. Oh, it went for sale already. 15,600 in the 7.5. Okay, we're going to check it in, but let's listen to the auctioneer for the Marvel Mystery.
6,000 in the room first. That's the advantage. 7,000 prior. 75 over here. 8,000. 8,000 in the room. Got 8,000. 82.56 cut. 8,500.
First cover appearance of Submariner.
Okay, you got a cut. Good time, I think. 87.50 here in the room. Dallas, Texas. 9,500. Tough book. 9,500.
Schomburg cover.
In the lead right now at 9,000.
Punching Nazis.
So for that, got 9,500 here.
It's got all the elements.
750 from 10,000. It's a hard one to find anywhere. Looking for 10 here. 10,000.
White pages, guys.
Slow down either. 10,000. There's 10,000. Marvel Mystery Comics #4. Timely Classic. We're looking for 11. 11,000. Heritage Live. The advance from you to 11,000.
You guys can hear the auctioneer, right? I'm just assuming you can hear him. I'm over just here, keeping quiet as he's talking. All right, we got to close. $12,000. That's actually a pretty respectable, like that. I don't know off the top of my head. I mean, we're going to have to look it up together, but feels like that was a good deal. I don't know. Maybe I overvalue that book, but Marvel Mystery 4. First Submariner cover. Schomburg, punching Nazis. I mean, so many great elements. Only 32 universals, 1.5, yeah. 1.5, the same copy. Wow, the same copy sold earlier this year for 13,800. That was the same copy, right? Yeah, it was the exact same copy. So this one, guys, this one went to Brutus the Barber Beefcake Barbershop. This one definitely got interviewed at the barbershop and took a little bit of a haircut. Now, I don't know what happened, if perhaps the person who bought this book couldn't afford to keep it or whatever, right? Or maybe they didn't like it and they wanted to sell it right away, had to get some money back, and they put it back on auction. And then this is always the risk, right? Where last time it sold for 13,800 and whoever is the one that actually bought it was one of the people in the running to make the bids. And then if now that person is selling it, well, you just took somebody out of the market to make the bids and it sells for $1,800 less, but maybe that was an aggressive sale. I mean, this 1.0 went for 10,900, but this was a nice copy. I mean, you have the date stamp here, which I'm sure people are not going to like. And then you have the rat shoe up here, which maybe people don't like the rat shoe, but it's because of this rat shoe that the book looks really nice overall. So I think this is a really cool book, regardless. And I feel like someone got probably what is a decent deal on that one. Looney Tunes Comics #1. Let's take a look at this one. This is one, again, a shill for this book. Come on, go collect. What are you going to do? I have to type more words. Merry Comics 1. Merry Melodies. All right, we're not going to look at it. What's going on? What's going on here, guys? Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies Comics. Do I have to? Excuse me, guys. Merry Melodies. This has got to be it, right? There it is. All right, really quick. Let's check in the chat with here. Mike is picking up the auctioneer sporadically. Oh, interesting. Okay, I've been kind of messing it up. I think I thought it was going through the computer, but I think it's playing through my mic. So I'm going to stop doing that. We got Flix Comics in the house. What's going on? What's going on, Jojo? Good to see you. Thanks for stopping in. All right. Okay. Merry Melodies Comics #1. We had it go on sale here. Let's do a little refresh. 15,600 for the 7.5. First appearance of all these characters. I think this book is so cool. We had the 7.0 sell for 18,000. So again, maybe on the softer end, you know, this one being a 7.5, 7.0 sold for 18,000. And so, yeah, not every Golden Age book can weather the storm of the current, you know, economic climate and stuff like that. So maybe somebody got a good price on this one. Perhaps this one was a little bit inflated when this one went for 18,000. You know, cream to off-white pages here versus you have off-white to white pages here. You know, comparing the two books, it's a nice 7.5. Here you have some kind of, what's that? Tanning, shadowing going on here. Maybe people don't like that. So yeah, I'd say that not many sales data to base it off of, but 15,000 seems like a respectable number to get, but probably lower, maybe on the low end compared to the fact that the 7.0 got a little bit more. But hey, any given sale, you know, any given sale, any given day. So glad I don't collect Golden Age. I go broke. Well, yeah, it is very, very, very expensive to collect Golden Age, but at the same time, you know, you can do also really well if you hold on to them and sell them years later. You know, you can get good returns. So that's kind of the nice thing with Golden Age, right? You can't get those people underbidding you because the census is so rare. All right, so let's take a look now and finish out. We talked about More Fun Comics 73. We're going to let the auction play out a little bit and see what some of the sales are. A couple more books that I wanted to talk about here was this one, Silver Surfer #4 in a CGC 9.8 off-white to white pages. This one was featured in the earlier auction today. Nice looking copy. I mean, it's a 9.8. You better get a nice looking copy, right? Well, spine tick. Can't have spine ticks on a 9.8. You can, guys. It is allowed to have spine ticks on a 9.8. But a nice looking copy right here. The only problem is, I feel like this is always kind of an issue. I mean, do you guys, this has to annoy some of you guys as well, right? When you have a 9.8 and has off-white to white pages, like just give it white pages, right? Like why you got to do it? Why you got to do the book like that, you know? But this one's selling for $66,000, a large number, but definitely a lot less than the prior sale. But this was going to be expected because, I mean, this was one of those ones where, again, you had to get the COVID money out of it, right? 9.8 selling in 2021, June of 2021 for $90,000. Now you can say this one did have white pages and had this little, what is this? The Oregon collection or something like that. I don't really even know what that stamp is. And maybe you could say this is a nicer looking copy. Doesn't have that one spine tick down there. But generally speaking, $90,000 was a lot. I mean, look at the graph, guys. You know, July of 2020, 17.9, boom, goes up to 90,000, right? 10x in 1 year. So too much money to go up, too much to expect, 25 copies at the 9.8 level. So I actually say $66,000 is almost in line, perfectly in line to sort of the correction that we've seen for a lot of Silver Age mega keys and what we've seen in the index, right? Where a lot of stuff has had sort of that 40% pullback, you know, or so. Some books have had more, 50, 60% pullbacks, but pretty much kind of right in line to that. So while it is a haircut from the prior sale, it is still a good number for that book to be hitting. It's still the second highest number that book has ever sold for. And it's a great book. only 24 other copies at the 9.8 level. So really, really cool to see that one as well. All right, let's take a look here. So, all right, so we had some Marvel Mystery Comics, some cool ones with Human Torch, more Schomburg stuff. What else we got coming up? Oh, we got some early Supermans, yellow covers, guys and gals. All right, let's finish out now with the last couple books to talk about. Submariner Comics #1, first solo series for Submariner in a CGC 7.5 earlier in the day, selling for $55,200. I can't remember. I think I did some pre-scouting, and I think that maybe that number is, while it's not low, it's not wildly impressive. Is that how I defined it? All right, you had some 5.5s selling here at 38,000. Then you had a 4.0 at 29. Then you had a 5.5 at 40,000 back in 2022. And then you had a 5.5 again drop all the way down to 28,000. So that was a pretty weak sale. And then you had it rebound at a 5.0 selling for 33,000. You had the 8.5 pedigree selling for 144. So it probably, when you're doing the calculations and the math, being that it's a 7.5, probably sold kind of right where it may want to be. Actually, maybe a little bit soft. Here you see, guys, the 7.5 back in 2020 selling for 50,400. So while you did get a good ROI, or while you did get an ROI of $5,000, to hold this book in 2020, you've had it for 3 years and you made, 5% of your money. Like, was it really that great of an investment? I mean, you could have just taken $50,000 and put it into Apple stock and it probably would have been safer. You know what I mean? So not every book is sort of this like perfect investment sort of book that's going to make you money. There has to just be joy in it, just holding the book. But a very, very cool Submariner cover, beautiful book. One of the coolest covers, in my opinion. Him just kind of lifting up the whole boat right there with all the Nazi soldiers in it. 55,000. It's a lot of money for that book, but cool to see that one. All right, and the last book that we have to talk about is Soup One, guys. Soup One. We're about to enter Superman territory, and we have another Superman one in a restored 5.0 going up for sale. So we're going to do the this or that comparison once again for that book. But we have to talk about this one because, again, much like Batman 1, we've been talking about it kind of a lot. The Batman one's going up for sale a lot. And we've almost seen as many Superman ones going up for sale. Now, Superman 1 isn't as common as Batman 1, but it is more common when we're talking about Golden Age census, right? So 74 universal and then 177 total graded. So there's actually a decent amount of non-blue label copies. But there's not so many blue labels. I mean, 74, that's pretty rare. But this one was interesting here because it was a white pager, nice looking 1.5. I mean, what else can you expect? There's some stain down here, but I mean, that wouldn't personally bother me too much, right? That cover looks great. It's probably has some spine splitting on this book, would be probably why, it's at that 1.5 range. But this one sold for a pretty decent premium at 174, considering the last sale was not too long ago, a 1.5 selling just last month for 132. So this book right here selling for $40,000 more in just a month. Now, again, this is where you really start to like this or that. And there's a lot of factors that come into it. You can see down here, spine splitting. You actually can see the chipping going on here, the stainage down here. And this is a cream to off-white pages book, whereas this one is a white pages book. And while there is probably a spine split, you don't actually see, the cover chipping on it, although you do have these tears over here. So this is where it's like it gets very, very imperfect, right? In predicting some of these low end sales, but I would say that was a really, really strong number for Superman, at the 1.5 level. And I think that probably is going to be close to the record. I mean, all the way back here in 2022, you had a 1.5 sell for nearly $200,000. And I would say that this is a much worse looking copy, right? You see the edges right there. You see the stains right here. It's cream to off-white, and you got 200,000. So any given sale, any given day, what people want, with Superman 1, right? And it could go high, it could go low, who's in the market for it at the time, but an all-time great book, love me some early Superman 1s. So kind of cool to see it, but those were the big, big sales earlier in the day for heritage auctions that happened. And some winners, some losers in those. I say losers, but again, there are no losers in this certain market. Like if you can afford to buy any of these books, you're absolutely winning. But some ones that went for a little bit less than you might think, some ones that went for a little higher than you might think, but nothing super drastic, nothing too crazy. And I would say that is, it feels like, again, we talk a lot about the market stuff, feels like we're finding that floor, especially at these high-end, rare, desired collectibles. I think in some of the other key sort of silver and bronze age stuff, there's still some fluff to be sort of worked out. But strong sales, even in this current market. I mean, we'll see. We'll always keep our eyes on some of these auctions, and it's always fun to kind of follow them and see what things end up selling for. Doggo Haas in the house. All right, let's check back in here with the chat. Phoenix Might says, my wife would divorce me on the spot if I bought any of these. Well, Phoenix, if you want to hear an interesting story, I mean, you go check out Automatic Comics video talking about the guy who bought the House of Secrets 92. I mean, that is potential for some friction in the marriage right there. I made my video, or had that video yesterday where I was kind of just commentating on that, just getting in over your head with some of these books. I mean, you shouldn't be buying the stuff if it's something financially irresponsible. It's fun for us to look at this stuff, but yeah, I would not be making any of these purchases if I, without, checking in with your family, and making sure that it is actually okay. Speaking of Superman 1, Palm NFT just dropped Batman 1. Site's going crazy. Yeah, actually, Ghost Riders, I was aware of that. Little inside baseball for you guys. So in my channel, I generally try to talk about comic related stuff, vintage market, secondary market. That's usually what I always discuss, right? And so there are times that I've done videos talking about VV comic books because I thought they were interesting stories. And I've talked about the Palm stuff and everything like that. And I talked about, what was it? Action 1 was their first one that came up. And I'll tell you, like, on my videos, the like to dislike ratios, like most of the time, like to dislike, it's like 98%, 99%, sometimes even 100% likes, on a lot of my videos. Anytime I talk about NFTs or like the Palm, or like if I talked about Action 1 digital copy, 80% likes, it's like, and I don't think people are disliking me. They're just disliking the fact that it's like, I'm talking about NFT comic books, just something that's really funny. All right. Checking in here. Superman 1. All right. We're going to play the same game, guys. 1.5 blue label or 5.0 restored. Like there has to be this breaking point, right? Like maybe it's a harder decision when you're talking about an 8.5 restored versus a 0.5 blue label. This one, color touch pieces added, tear seals reinforced. But it does look nice. It does look nice. The yellow is very yellow. And if you're going to buy one of these yellow covers, it better be yellow. $66,000. So a 1.5 today sold for $174,000. And you get the 5.0 restored for $66,000. That's a large gap. Definitely, that is a large gap. You know what I mean? Superman 3 right here, guys. I think that this is a cool, badass cover. Like, I like a lot of the elements. I mean, again, it doesn't have all the same aesthetics that you typically see that people like, you know, some of the World War II stuff, Schomburg stuff. But I like when the character is sort of represented in the way that we think about them. You know, he's leaping the train, he's saving the kid. And here, Superman 3 at the 4.5. Again, I compare these to the Batman ones. I mean, $6,900 is a pretty respectable number. Just off the top, I would say that that's probably pretty high, or like probably pretty decent. You know, I think the Batman 3, what did we say? It was the 8.0, and it sold for like 8 or 9,000. So 6,900 is nothing to sneeze at. You know, I wouldn't say that this is proportionally undervalued in any sort of way. You know, so probably a respectable. I don't even need to look it up to know that it's a respectable number. You know, this is another one that's kind of an interesting early Superman one. It doesn't have the elements that you would want necessarily, but it is kind of a heroic Superman pose, similar with this one. It's always fun. You know, he's ripping off the jail cell bars. Although, doesn't it look like when you look at this, guys, it like the way that this is drawn, like, okay. I was gonna say, like, it kind of looks like this is like a fake wall that you could just sort of walk around, and that she could just like walk outside of it. But I see that it's a box, apparently. I don't really understand the context here, though. Like, they're in this place and it's like a jail cell box, and he's saving the girl, but like the guy's in there with him. But I do think that these covers are fun. You know, Superman bending steel. I mean, how much more classic hero does it get than like him bending the steel bars, right? Those are always kind of fun to see. Lol, I like NFTs. I think they'll bring younger people into the hobby. Yeah, I like them too. And actually, this is something, if you guys are interested in a good YouTube channel that talks about like VV and the comic book NFTs, go check out this podcast called Comics and Crypto on YouTube. Great guys over there. But I do talk to them quite a bit. And this is very true, Metal Bum, what you're talking about is they'll tell me like their audience skews much younger, right? The people who are on VV and get the NFT comic books and stuff, much younger audience, more in their 20s and that sort of thing. And they tell me all the time that people will buy the NFT, you know, comic book, and then they'll be curious, like, and they'll be interested, and they'll be like, oh, like, so like there's real comic books of this that exist. And the amount of people that have gotten into comic books as VV being the gateway is a lot of people. Shout out to Sleeping Comics as well. If you guys don't know his YouTube channel, Sleeping Comics, he's been on this channel before as well. We talked about it, and he says all the time, like, a lot of people get into the VV comic books and they don't know anything about comic books. They don't know that Daredevil 1 is Daredevil's first appearance. They don't know that AF-15 is Spider-Man's first appearance. They're learning about this stuff through the VV app. And then they're, after that, exploring the physical comics. So I think it actually is really good for the comic book market, even if everyone here in the chat snickers at it or doesn't like it. It's really, really a good mechanism to bring people in to the comic book hobby as a whole. I have made the determination that Suspense Comics 3 will be on par with Action Comics 1 one day. Ooh, that's a good thing. I mean, I would say that Suspense 3, like the adage I would throw out with Suspense 3 is that it's your favorite comic book's favorite comic, right? And what I mean by that is it's like, this is the like comic elitist's favorite comic book, right? Where it's like, it's obvious to like Action Comics #1. Like that's the easy, this is my favorite comic book. But like, when you get we have the really refined palate, the really refined taste, you know, the really fancy food critic, Suspense 3 becomes that comic book. Will it ever be more valuable than Action 1? It's hard to say. It's hard to say because Action One will always have the pop cultural significance, so that if one day people don't care anymore about comic books, say like 50 years from now, when everybody is living in the metaverse and nobody has physical assets, I feel like, people will still recognize that Action One has a role in history, and in the way that we can still look at, historical documents and understand that, things still have historical significance. We still have an appreciation for this type of stuff. I think Action One will always be that. And same with Suspense 3. It's just that Suspense 3 is a deeper cut. You know what I mean? It's a deeper cut. On the Palm Discord, we answer so many questions about the actual physical comics. It's cool educating people that have no idea what they're looking at. Yeah. And it's a really important thing to do. It's a really important thing to do because I don't know if I'd say it's surprising or not surprising, but like anytime you have like, you talk to somebody younger about it, like if it's like, I remember my nephews who now they're 12, but at the time they were like 10 years old when they had it. Like they have all the toys of all the Marvel stuff, right? They have like, even like the deep cut toys. They had like Crimson Dynamo, like the action figure and stuff like that. And I remember like coming in here and just telling them, I was like, oh yeah, like this is where the first comic book that character came from and all that stuff. And you can see that they actually start to think like, oh, that's actually really cool. Like their eyes light up with it, right? And it's so much of that education stuff for people to actually think that it's cool, or if you go to a con and then like you see somebody wander into the vintage comic section and they don't like have any knowledge, like maybe they're there because they like pop figurines. But if you actually can tell them about stuff and answer questions and actually say, AF-15, that's where Spider-Man came from. Like, this is the very first comic. Like, it clicks for people. Like, they don't know it because they don't know it. But then when you tell them it, it's like, wow, that is really cool. And I mean, you guys know, like, I mean, comic book dealers and comic book stores sometimes have the, don't have the, friendliest of personas oftentimes. So it's a really difficult barrier of entry for a lot of people to learn about this stuff. And you need people to help them learn about it. And if they don't, then everything's going to zero. You know what I mean? Flick says, reminds me of how I discovered comics through trading cards back in the day. Yeah. I mean, there's so many, like, so much of it is like gateway, right, into it. Like you need a gateway. I can't imagine that there's too many people, especially now, that are purely getting into comics purely through comics. I'd imagine now that maybe a lot of kids who get into comic books, like, if you guys have kids in the chat and stuff, you probably, because you guys like comics, or, you're probably getting your kids into it. But I'd imagine a lot of kids maybe start with cartoons or certainly trading cards. I mean, back in the day, I liked the trading cards more than my comic books. I mean, I was buying both of them, but those Marvel Universe things, I spend more time reading that stuff and looking at that stuff than I actually did reading my comic books, like 100%. So a lot of that stuff is very, very important. Like you got to have these other things, or pop figurines, you got to have these other things that get people into it, because yeah, it's a big barrier of entry into the comic book space. All right, guys. Well, I've been going on now for 2 hours, and I think I might call the stream, because we can go on for a long time. This auction is going to go on for a long time, and my voice is getting parse. What is it? Hoarse. What is it? I need a drink of water. But, as you guys can see, this auction is going to go on for a long time. We're just getting through the golden age. We're going to go into the silver age comic book stuff. Then we're going to go into the bronze age. You have some modern stuff like ASM 667, the Del Auto cover. You got the 9.8 Captain America 117 that was on the cover. You have 9.6 Black Panther, 9.6 House of Secrets. Really, really amazing, huge books coming up. And this is just today. Later on in the day, you have the 9.8 UF4 back-to-back, the CGC versus the CBCS label. You have the X-Men 1 and the 8.5. That one, it will be interesting to watch. And then you have a Vampirella 9.6. So you have tons of these huge books coming up the rest of the day. This is going to go on for hours. I probably can't last the whole time. I might decide to do a stream later on because there's also other sessions for this auction. You have some other big books coming up later on. You some Chamber of Chills. You got the Crime Suspense 22 coming up, and maybe I can get some other people on the stream and not have to carry the load the whole time. But let's take a look at this X-Men one. I'll just kind of do one little last price check because somebody was asking about it earlier on in the chat, and I can see if I can do a little bit of a prediction. So we have this 8.5 coming out. It's a white pager or off-white pages. And we've been talking about books, having corrections, having haircuts. Looks like this one already did have its haircut. So back in 2020, it was a $51,000 book, shot all the way up to, 140. I mean, insane numbers, right? 121. And then recent comps, 57, 57, 58. So it feels like I would very much expect this book to settle around that same price. I mean, that would put it right back in line with the trend. And so, it's already sitting there at 58,800. So it's definitely going to hit the last couple sales. So it might get a little bit more, maybe be up to 65 or maybe even 70 if somebody really wants that book today. And so this kind of goes back in accordance to like maybe the thesis that I was talking about a little bit earlier when I was talking about the AF-15 and the Hulk 1. Now we're seeing it with the X-Men 1. It does feel like we had that COVID money. Things got sucked out. We're looking at the index and the high investable grades, right? Where we're in the top 20% of grades for a lot of these books of the Marvel blue chips are finally done going down. Seemingly. Who knows? I can't predict the future. I'm just calling it as I see it today. That's as I see it today. The AF-15, the Hulk 1, they've kind of found their floor and they've actually sort of rebounded from their low. So we'll see what happens. I don't think that this is true of all Silver Age comic books. And I don't think it's true of all Silver Age grades. I'm just seeing it, let's say, from the high-end stuff that doesn't go up for sale as often, that can be on a long enough sale time horizon to where the natural inflation was just going to keep the floor level at what it is. So I would suspect that X-Men 1 selling around that level, maybe a little bit more. So cool to see it. But, want to say thanks again, guys, for hanging out today on the stream. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys had some fun. Always cool to talk about some of these books, some of these sales, and keep our eyes on what things go for and window shop together. Don't get FOMO out there. Don't be spending money on heritage auctions if you can't afford it. Just enjoy it. Let me check in with the chat really quick, just quick to see. Awesome stream swag. Enjoyed hanging out. In the 90s, cards were how I learned about old comics for sure. Yeah, same with me. That's where I got all my knowledge. It was from the carts. Yeah. It would be awesome. Jamie in the house. Yeah, it would be awesome to have you cover Comic Connect's next auction. Yeah, Jamie, I'll probably cover it again. I'm excited to see, what other little cool stuff you guys got coming in to that auction. So that'll be really, really cool to see. But I'm sure that we'll try to cover it. I mean, I think it's fun to cover these auctions. It gives us something to talk around, while we're streaming. It's a little bit easier when there's multiple people in it, so that we can have I don't have to talk the whole time. But we'll definitely figure out something. We'll definitely cover it. And I've aspirations again. Once we can make these like live events. We should have. I want to have a John Madden board where I can start to draw on an iPad and have arrows and circles and just do play breakdowns and be as you guys can see right here, this chip in the corner is really going to affect the market. It's really going to affect the eye appeal of this book. This might take a haircut, John. That'd be really funny if we kind of played up that whole thing. Anyways, that's all I got for this stream, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. Let me just kind of finish again, a little bit of a shameless plug. Appreciate you guys hanging out. If you guys want to support the channel, do you guys know that I wrote a comic book? It's called Sanity, and you guys can get it on swagglehousecomics.com in the shop. Got Sanity issue number 1 right there. I got Sanity cover C. I have 2 copies left of cover C, not to give you guys FOMO or anything. I mean, don't worry about it. If you don't want it, don't buy it. But there's 2 covers left and then I'm sold out. So that would be kind of cool to actually do that. But I do have cover A's available, and I am working on the Kickstarter for issues 2 and 3. So very, very excited to have those coming soon for you guys. So stay tuned for that. Thanks again, guys, so much for watching the stream today. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next stream. Peace out.